All right, welcome in. Good morning. It's the Daily Puck Drop. We do it live every single day at 10 a.m. And boy, do we have a special guest right off the start of the show. Normally we'd have him later, but we said, you know what? You're so valuable to us. We'd like for Ryan Divish, our MLB insider, to be right out of the gate here on the Daily Puck Drop. Again, Daily Puck Drop every single day, 10 a.m. on YouTube, on Twitter, Puck Sports mobile app. Download it to your iPhone, your Android phone. You can listen to us on the move, on the go. If you watch or listen to this later, go to the YouTube channel, Puck Sports. Like, subscribe, leave comments there. We love answering all the comments. Also, on your favorite podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcasts. Of course, I'm broadcasting from the Limback Lumber Studios. Contractors, they got free deliveries, everything from whole house packages to homeowner DIY projects. Largest stock moldings in the Northwest. Old school service because they've been doing it since 1930, kiddos. Give them a call, 206-782-3487, or visit them online at limbacklumber.com. And, of course, check out everything. One-stop shop up at pucksports.com. Our MLB insider, Ryan Divish, brought to you by Chalet Bowl, Washington's oldest operating bowling alley, proudly serving the community since 1941, located in Tacoma's historic Proctor District. Family-owned and operated for over 40 years. Check them out at chaletbowl.com. Book your next reservation. Experience the best in local fun. All right, so there's no Jim Moore today. So we said, hey, Divish, why don't you just come on right out of the chute? We'll have you on. Then we're going to do a little Rob Staten later, get our fix on the NFL draft. One of your best friends, Bobby C., Bob Condotta, will be on later, give his insight on the NFL draft that gets underway tomorrow. Now, you're going to ask me, why is Jim not here today?
He's not good at life.
He's not, well, yeah, that's part of it. He's driving, as we speak, to Pullman, Washington, to go celebrate the 21st birthday of his twins. How do you think that's going to go tonight?
I mean, if we had a pool about when each kid's going to vomit and other stuff, although it's not like his kids haven't been drinking in the bars. It's like they're going to go into the Coug or whatever and celebrate their 21st birthday, and the bouncer's going to look at him, dude, you've been in here for like a year now.
I know. I think they've had fake IDs for a while. So, again, no Jim today, but he'll be back coming up.
I mean, honestly, though, is there any other person you know that is kind of weirder at life? At least he mocks himself. But, like, you know, he goes on and talks about winning $9,000. I'm thinking to myself, yeah, you just gave proof that needs to be taxed. If you wouldn't have said anything, nobody would know, you know? Like, why?
Well, and I don't know for sure because I looked this up. I was convinced that on Venmo you can't give more than like $600 without like raising a flag. But then I couldn't find like anything specifically that said that. But I still believe that it's frowned upon to go over $600.
Yeah, I mean, especially like in Washington where they want to tax everything. So like, you know, it's, I mean, I just laughed at that. And like me and my buddies were on a text thread going, does he realize what he's doing right now? But
no,
you know,
he doesn't. He wanted to take a victory lap. And you know what? He should have been able to take a victory lap. The best part about it was that he won all that money. Okay. And then,
so he's even finally?
Well, no, I don't think he's close to even. But did you hear what he did like a week prior? He destroyed a golf cart at Palouse Ridge. He has to pay for that golf cart.
How did he do that, by the way?
There's a hole there. It's a par 3 that has you're not supposed to. Well, it's a par 3. You're not supposed to go in the fairway, and it's really steep off the cart path. He went down it and tipped it over. And he claims he wasn't drinking. He claims. I believe him. I believe that he was not. But he damaged it, and I'm like, dude, those things are like, if you completely wrecked it, it's like $9,000.
Yeah, it's not what you want. Because they don't have the cheap carts at Palouse Ridge. They don't have the cheap gas carts. They got the good electrics and everything.
Yeah, they got the good ones. All right, we find Divish, of course, our MLB insider. He's taking some time off, but he's still with us every single week. He's coaching the Havre North Stars there in Havre, Montana. Also, on Wednesdays when we get to speak to him, he's in the Valley Furniture Store because he's now the brand new 2025 Valley Furniture Salesman of the Year. Have we sold anything this morning yet?
No, the store just opened about 10 minutes ago. So
still have time to maybe get a purchase in. Did we sell anything last week?
Yeah, I sold a couple recliners and a couple chairs. You know, the one thing is you can kind of push people to say, hey, look, you know, these tariffs, we don't know how it's going to react. So you might want to buy it now in case this stuff goes up.
Is that your line? Hey, we're not sure where we're going to go with this here. The tariffs could hit any time.
Well,
buy now, worry later.
Honestly, like Lazy Boy already sent out a memo saying like this week that prices will go up per seat because the fabrics that they use are all made in China. Okay. So like the leather and stuff that they get is imported from China. You have to say it the
other way, China.
It's a, and Lazy Boy was just like, well, it's a really big tariff, and it's, it's going to be the biggest tariff in the world, and we just don't know, but it'll be the greatest tariff, and it'll make us the best furniture company in the country.
So should I go buy a Lazy Boy now?
Well, the price has already gone up. I think it's like $70 a seat. So like if you buy a sectional and there's like 6 seats in it, then it's going to go up a little bit.
Jesus, man. I missed my opportunity to get it.
Yeah, I'm telling you though, I love the recliners. Like I just need another one. When I sit at home though, Cindy likes to sit in the same recliner as me, and I'm like being on this hiatus, I'm not working out as much as I used to, and I'm eating. Actually, having food in a fridge is causing me to eat.
Well, that happens.
And then, like the Mariners media dining is so bad, like you don't really eat. So, like I'm starting to put on some LB. So I'm not fitting in that chair as well as I used to with her in it. So
she needs to get her own chair, sir.
Oh yeah, that doesn't work. It's her house. If she wants to cuddle, then we cuddle.
Hold on, I'm going to write that down. If it's her house, if she wants.
Ain't no man cave for me.
I know. Well, you don't have your own room, right?
No. Yeah, it's I have part of the closet. That's good.
Yeah, well, that's all of us. Okay.
No, so yeah, that's when we watch Mariners games, and like it's funny. Like even if I don't watch them live, then I rewatch the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing is watching, and she offers pretty good criticism too. Sometimes it's pretty funny.
Do you miss is this one of the road trips, or is this one of the venues that you miss a little bit? Do you like going to Boston? You like going to Fenway?
No, like working in Fenway sucks.
Really?
Oh, it sucks so bad because you're way up high, and then when you get done, you have to walk through the exiting fans to get to the clubhouse, and then the clubhouse is so small that you can't interview. Like you interview the manager outside of it, and then there's people there and equipment, and so it's
isn't there some romance to that a little bit?
Puck, in 2008, before they expanded the locker rooms from 25 square feet to 35 square feet, Lee Elia, who was the assistant hitting coach at the time,
I love Lee Elia.
Who was built like a shorter, chubbier, hairier version of you.
Yes.
Stood next to me buck naked and goes, "Sorry, kid, they're all out of towels. You're just going to have to drink it in." It was like a small Yeti was standing next to me.
Oh, I have a wonderful vision of that.
Yeah, it's like being at the Y.
You don't find it romantic at all, a little bit, just that it's very old school. You're interviewing the guy outside the clubhouse.
So yeah, no, but like when you're down on the field,
yeah,
like when you're down on the surface, and then you walk and you're standing out there, and then you see the red seat for Ted Williams, and you realize like he stood in that batter's box, or you go out to the Green Monster and look inside, and it smells.
Have you gone inside there?
Yeah, it smells like urine in an equipment shed in there, but it's still, but that part is cool, and they have the best pre-game music ever because the players pick it, so it's like all old school hip hop.
Okay.
Like old school country or old school like 2000s hip hop. So you'll hear some Mix-a-Lot, and you'll hear some Tupac. It's really good. I call it educational for some of these people that don't understand good music.
Well, I've only been there once, and I would just say that walking in there for the first time to see it with your own eyes, I think from the TV, I don't think it does it justice. But when you walk in there for the first time and you realize it's just so small.
Oh, it's tiny.
It looks like a little league field compared to these other ballparks that you're so accustomed to. And I think the first time I walked in there, I was just like, I just did not realize how tiny it was.
Yeah, it's old school. You're peeing in troughs, you're not getting, and then also like the seats apparently were fat asses now because the seats back in the 1900s, they're a lot skinnier.
Well, the seats are tight, but we sat in a row. It's so old school. We sat in a row where there wasn't two exits. That you had to only go in one way. And so if you had seat 20, you're walking through 19 people to get to your seat.
Well, yeah,
You
and
couldn't get out the other way.
and they don't all face the field. They're at angles and stuff like that. It's like
we were
Wrigley.
behind
There's
a
a
pole.
charm. There's a charm to it. Like as we were talking before this, like Puckett's kids complaining about playing on dirt instead of turf. That's what that's like. It's like you go to. There's no concourse, so you can't see the field if you go get in to get something to eat. You know. So
we got some spoiled 11-year-olds who had to play on dirt last night. Like, why are we having to do this?
Yeah. So
like, hey, buddy, deal with it.
Is that? I mean, but there is some charm to it, and there is a vibe and like an energy, especially because like pregame they have Yawkey Way closed. They got all the vendors.
That's the best part too.
And then like afterwards, the Cask and Flag Inn, Lansdowner, all those bars. There's this other bar right in Yawkey, right across the street from the entrance. You go downstairs, and it's like this hidden little spot. I remember the one time I went in there, I was with a couple other writers. Johnny Gomes was in there drinking and telling Red Sox stories.
Johnny Gomes. Yeah. So for people who don't, Yawkey Way would be like if they shut down Occidental.
Yeah.
If the stadium was, if Occidental, was like right next to the stadium, like kind of parallel to it, and then they just shut it down, and that's like a party in and of itself.
Yeah, like that back part by the in between. It'd be like kind of if you took the back part of T-Mobile and moved it right to the front part, right by the statues.
Yeah.
That part where you have multiple entrances in, and they have all the stores there and stuff.
That's great.
And then one thing too is the Italian sausages out front by the street vendors with the onions and peppers and the good spicy mustard, and nobody puts ketchup on their Italian sausages.
It's because you shouldn't. Everybody knows that. The and you know, in that ballpark is crazy. It's just like no lead is safe.
No,
it doesn't matter how many runs you score. You're so goddamn scared of all the nooks and crannies where that ball hits and ricochets. It's just it's an absolute throwback to me.
I'm like, if you're Alex Bregman, why would you leave? Why would you go anywhere else?
Oh well, yeah, no.
But everybody thinks he's going to opt out. But why would you just leave?
Yeah. I don't know why. He crushes the ball there. He always has. He did it with Houston and did it last night against Miller, and especially against Miller that he never had any success against Bryce Miller until last night.
Bryce didn't have very good command last night. Like his splitter just wasn't. There were some times where it was good, but like it wasn't reliable, and it's not going to be a reliable pitch. But he just wasn't. He isn't as crisp as we've seen him. The one start on this road trip earlier that was pretty good, but like we haven't seen the Bryce Miller that we saw last year.
Yeah, what do you think's going on there? I mean, we talked about this before. It's not. He's not getting. No one's getting deep into games except for Brian Wu, which is kind of the irony of the whole thing. But we talked about this velocity dip. And it's just, and he's talked about the soreness afterwards. I don't know, just with each start, it just seems to be more and more of a concern.
Well, you look at the ball that Bregman hit late. That was a 93-mile-per-hour fastball. Yeah, it wasn't really even a strike, but it's 93. I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I had them written down at one point, but like, and he's even admitted it. When he throws a fastball below 95 miles an hour, it gets hit and it gets hard. I think the OPS or the slugging percentage on it alone is like over 600 on fastballs under 95. When it's 95 and up, he doesn't get hit very hard. And you could see like his fastball was consistently 93, 94 in that last inning of work. And then and I think he knows it. He sees the velo, so then he's trying to get a little fine with it. And then you see the commands, then he falls behind and counts, and you got to throw it again. Especially like last night, I didn't think his secondary stuff was as crisp as it needed to be, or he could locate it. So then he have the weapons. So then all of a sudden you're having to come back with fastballs and throwing fastballs in that park in hittable counts. That's just not a good recipe.
I mean, is there I don't listen. What are we? 23 games into the season. No one's going to hit the panic button with a breakdown here of the starters. But the starters, you would say, they haven't performed all that well. I mean, you look at their team ERA right now for a group. It's 21st in baseball at 4.27. Now they're missing George Kirby, so that's obviously part of the problem.
That's the thing too. You throw out, those several starts where they had Luis effing Castillo and the other one. It affects it, and it'll even out, especially when they get back home. But, you got to play 81 on the road, and so they got to figure it out. I mean, like, for me, it just there just hasn't been an efficiency maybe that they've been used to having. And I don't know if it's teams waiting them out or if their lack of command or they're picking up on the command. Another thing is like, just winning the 0-0 and 1-1 counts. God, I can't believe I'm saying that. I feel like it's a drinking game. But there have been times where they just haven't. And then, like I said, they've been behind in counts, and that's, you're giving up harder contact.
Or putting
and
guys
granted,
away with 2 strikes.
Yeah, and granted, these road games here, this trip, they're all very hitter-friendly parks.
Right.
Boston and Cincinnati especially. Toronto has gotten more even since they changed they did the revamp of it. It isn't quite as hitter-friendly, but it's still pretty hitter-friendly. So, I mean, the combination of them not having great location or even great stuff, and then the parks they're playing in and the teams they're playing against have led to this. But, we did talk about, everybody said there had to be some regression from last year because that's just not a sustainable pace that they were pitching at. And does Kirby definitely changes the mix up a little bit. But you're also part of the reason we think there is going to be regression is because these guys are throwing innings that they've never thrown before in back-to-back seasons. You bump up 30 every year.
Yep.
There is, Bryce isn't the biggest guy in the world, and there is some fatigue. And remember Gil Mesh used to have the dead arm period for a while, the Gil Mesh dead arm. I mean, maybe it's just like, or Service called it soggy for a while.
Well, and it's not only it's that, but it's the type of innings and type of games that they're pitching in.
They're just getting extended. That's another thing. They'll have they'll have one extended inning, and then that's the thing. And the game could have been different too if they put up a 4 spot in that first inning, and then Bryce can just go attack. Then you're not trying to be so fine. But then it's 1-1, 2-1. They got it. They made a great play. I mean, they made a great play. Casas made a great play. Yeah. He interrupted his naked yoga and made a really good play on it. And that's the kind of play that wins you a game. If you think about it, that ball gets through, or even if they don't get 2 and then they get a single, they get 3-0. Well, Bayo is probably at 30 pitches in his first outing of the year. They're going to be real careful. Maybe they bang him out, they take him out. Then all of a sudden you're into their bullpen and you're working their bullpen over, and it changes the whole complexion of the rest of the series. So it's it's funny, and I hear Service because for 9 years we covered him, but and Dan said it too, but there are 3 or 4 pitches within a game that can decide it. And what happens on those 4 pitches, and Rowdy's ball is a foot to the left, maybe it, or a foot to the right, he gets through. Or, they don't make a play, they don't turn 2, then all of a sudden that could change the whole complexion. But, or Bryce's pitch is a little bit lower in the zone and it doesn't get hit. So, Bregman just wore him out last night. Maybe that's the laws of, with Bregman, though, you always wonder if he has something on a pitcher because he's all about tells, even without the help of a garbage can and a computer. He is better than maybe – perhaps only Bryce Harper is better at finding tells in your pitching and, being able to know what you're going to throw because of something you're doing with your mechanics. And, he was on everything Bryce threw last night.
Yeah. I have a special surprise for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's the first time in the Ryan Divish Show that we have a guest.
Oh, God.
Ladies and gentlemen, joining us from Boston is Tim Booth of the Seattle Times, who is filling in for you, Divish, while you're out here selling furniture in Havre, Montana. And so, Tim,
if you look over my left shoulder, you will see Fenway Park.
See, that's what it looks like, Divish.
In case you forgot what it looks like, Div.
Tim got the one hotel I could never ever figure out how to be able to stay in Boston, the Residence Inn that's literally across the street. Meanwhile, I was staying in South Boston where they filmed Good Will Hunting and trying not to get beat up at the local convenience store when I go get dinner late at night.
Hey, it's marathon week. Some of us have to sacrifice by staying a little bit closer to the ballpark.
Tim, is anybody asking, hey, where's Divish?
Constantly. The amount of how's Ryan doing? Where's Ryan? Please God, bring Ryan back. We're tired of reading you already. That I'm getting is rather significant. It should make you feel warm and fuzzy inside, Div, that so many people are missing you already. It's been like 3 weeks. It's been like 3 weeks you've gone, and they're already ready to riot against me, especially.
That warm and fuzzy feeling is just hate and anger that I have now. It isn't directed at Twitter as much as it is weather. Like when it hailed on me the other day when I'm dragging the field, So now You guys are doing good. It's Tim. Tim got a pretty good road trip. The Toronto Boston part of the road trip is pretty dang good. He was in Toronto when they won Game 1 of that playoff series, didn't you? Weren't you?
How did you negotiate
I
that?
never. So first of all, I was not in Toronto during the playoff series because that was when I was with AP and we didn't travel for that. Secondly, I don't know if we should be sharing the trade secret of why I ended up in Toronto for this road trip, but we'll just throw Adam Jude under the bus and point out that Adam Jude, who is 45 years old, I think Adam's 45, still doesn't have a passport, and so he's not allowed to fly to Canada because he's an idiot. So
He doesn't have he's never had a passport.
I think he had one, but it
I think-
expired.
Yeah, I think that was the case because this was the whole thing back in 2022. Why these yahoos, Stoney, Jude, and Div had to reenact planes, trains, and automobiles and fly to Detroit and then drive to Toronto for the playoff series because Jude didn't have a valid passport at that time.
Oh,
Yeah, we drove, Puckett. We took the red eye to Detroit, a red eye that I don't think I got a wink of sleep on because I somehow managed to get the worst seat of anybody on the plane. And then we land in Detroit and I have to drive. And I look and Adam and Larry slept it's like a 3-hour drive. And, which in Montana is a commute. And it's a beautiful drive. It's easy. I mean, we were at the border for like 2 or 3 minutes. And I mean, that's me in the summertime looking like I'm, a terrorist, and still like we were able to get through the border in like 2 or 3 minutes. But it was a long day. Whereas when you fly
how did he get in though?
He has
You can cross if you have the enhanced driver's license, which he has. You can cross by land or by boat, but you can't via air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should have made him drive out there for the road trip. Hey, Jude, just get in your car and drive.
So so Tim but like Toronto is a great trip. I mean, Toronto's a great city. And I was disappointed you didn't get into the hockey playoffs, Tim. I was seeing, I figured Game 1 you could find a way to sneak in to perhaps the biggest hockey series in Ontario in the last 40 years.
Yeah, I thought about it, but then by the time we got done with Sunday's game, it was kind of pushing what the start time of the hockey game was anyway. So, but it was awesome just to walk around downtown on Sunday night. Kind of go over by where the arena is, where they have this huge fan kind of tailgate thing, and then just to find a bar to sit in and watch the game that was just crowded with Leafs fans. It was a pretty cool night just to hang out.
Hey, Tim, we were talking before you came on just about the starting pitching, and we're going to get into the runners in scoring position here in just a quick second. But starting pitching and Bryce Miller, and you look at all these starters right now. I mean, they've got now this is propped up, and we talked about this that you don't have George Kirby, but they've got the 4.27 ERA. It's 21st in baseball right now. Logan Gilbert's last 3 starts, he hasn't got past the 5th inning. Miller hasn't completed 6 innings. Castillo's been to the 6th once, and that was 7 innings against Detroit. Woo's been the best at it because his last 2 outings he's been through 7. He's got an ERA of 3.60. Let's Miller for a second. You were in there last night. This is, again, a trend with him after every start complaining about his velocity and arm soreness. Where do you think we're at right now with Bryce Miller?
Hey, can you send me all that? Because that was going to be my notebook today anyway, so you just did all the research for me.
Sure, I got it for you.
I think, what's funny was a couple weeks ago when this popped up and Bryce was really open talking about it, he really shook it off as though, hey, it's just an early season kind of thing. It's, he told me privately that it was kind of like he would just get a little tight in between innings and it would just kind of struggle to get loose again. And that's what he felt like was leading to the velocity being down. Last night, he didn't want to address it. He kind of tried to avoid the whole situation. And his fastball was down in the 5th inning, a good mile and a half per hour. And he's openly talked in the past, like his fastball doesn't play right unless it's 94, 95, 96 in that range. And so if he's up there throwing high 92s, low 93s, it doesn't have the same effectiveness. especially with the other stuff that he's trying to throw out there, to make him as good of a pitcher as he can be. So I think it's becoming more of a concern, especially the way that he didn't really want to address it last night, that this is continuing now beyond just one turn in the rotation. His velocity was good against Cincy. It was back up, in the fifth inning in that 95, 96 range. But they also put a governor on him in that start and pulled him after 78 pitches. Last night they let him go up to 100, and you saw the decrease in the numbers. So I do think it's something that's a little bit more of a concern now than maybe it was a couple weeks ago.
Divish, when do you think it's a concern? Like, when is it a bigger concern?
I think, if it continues in the next 2 or 3 starts, they may have to readdress it. It's because part of it is too, if he's coming out of tight or he's coming out of sore from his, that limits what he can do midweek, which limits what he can do, in terms of refining his command and everything else. I mean, it's not like they're going on every 5th day either. They've been trying to get these guys off days when they can and get them the extra day of rest, and it's something he'll just have to work through. But maybe 2 or 3 weeks from now, if it's not cleaned up, then maybe they sit him down for 2 weeks and just say, hey, rest your arm, let's rebuild. But it's, it's that decision's a lot easier to make when George Kirby's on his way back too. I think that's a big part of it. But, this is something the Mariners were extremely lucky last year to get as many starts as they did from these guys. And so if they have to sit them down for a little bit, then maybe that's what they do. But, weather gets warm sometimes, it just conditioning, your body gets used to it. Sometimes that's all it takes, because everybody kind of gets that throughout the course of a season, a spike in velocity or a dip in velocity. And they did talk about in spring training that Bryce always comes in throwing like 99 to 100 from spring training, and then, it levels out. But we haven't seen it stay this low for quite a while, maybe since the end of his rookie season. And so that it's a concern. It's a concern because, if he's not commanding the secondary stuff, then he gets real hittable. And that's just, that's not, I guess it's, when is it diminishing returns running him out there if he doesn't have optimal stuff versus taking 2 weeks to get him cleaned up and get him healthy again.
Hey, when do we expect Kirby to be back? Is he throwing a bullpen this week in Seattle?
Yes, he's throwing a live this week at T-Mobile. My guess is they'll sort of reevaluate where he stands after that's done, and then you're probably looking a rehab in Tacoma or somewhere where the weather's optimal for him to get a few starts in. I mean, at this point, trying to think where we are in the calendar, it's probably optimistically the second week of May, because you'd like them to have probably more than one rehab start, considering he's essentially ramping up from zero from where he was at when he got shut down. So I think you're looking maybe. I was trying to think. They have a series against the Yankees and Blue Jays the second week of May, and then they head back out on the road. So maybe around that road trip might be your best case scenario. And then if he looks really good, then maybe you can move that up slightly and he gets back a little bit sooner.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to go every 6th with him, and the first one will be 30 pitches, and then it'll be 60, and then it'll be, might even be 30, 50, 75. And then if they're comfortable at 75 to bring him back and run him on a short leash, they can do it. They're not in a position where they have to just – remember last year where they did that, where they had like a 3-inning start for a guy just because they were so desperate. They're not really in that desperate position yet. But, yeah, it's something they got to worry about.
They only struck out 5 times in that first game against the Red Sox, and if you look at their overall numbers, I think it's down. I think through this time a year ago, if I looked it up correctly, if I didn't, so what? Doesn't matter. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I think it was 26% of the time through this time a year ago they were striking out. I think they're down to 20. They're still like 21st or 20th in baseball in the number of strikeouts. So they have lowered it. But again, they continue to struggle with runners in scoring position. Do both of you see their approach better? Do you think that clearly they're not striking out as much, but they still are striking out a ton. Do you sense, Tim, you go first. Is their approach better at the plate?
I don't know. And I know that's not a good answer, but because I think what's happened is they've had what's felt like a lot of strikeouts in key situations, and maybe that's what makes it feel like the strikeouts are just as bad as it was a year ago. Because yeah, I mean, you're right. Year over year, the strikeout rate numbers are down. The interesting one is Rowdy Telez's strikeout rate is like massively higher than what it's been over his career, and he's sort of inflating those numbers even more.
Mm.
Julio's numbers are actually strikeout numbers are kind of flat as well, even though it feels like he's struck out a lot. I think it's more situational is why it maybe feels that way. And I think, whether it's a strikeout or like last night with Tellez grounding in the double play in the first, they've just been really shitty about coming through with key hits in situation in scoring situations. JP's ball last night felt like a miracle that it found grass and actually scored some runs. Arozarena has been the only guy who's been consistently, decent with runners in scoring position, especially in 2-out situations this year. I don't know if they necessarily go hand in hand, the strikeout rate and the struggles with runners in scoring position, but it just feels like when they have had those opportunities in those situations, that's kind of when a key strikeout, pops up. Rosarena struck out on a situation like that I think it was the 6th or 7th last night. So, I think it's just it just speaks to the bigger issues of, their approach overall might be better, but they're still, situationally struggling to come through in at times.
Yeah, I mean,
Go
I
ahead.
look at their walk rate is a lot better than it was, especially like guys like Julio and stuff. They're 11, they've got 4th best walk rate in baseball,
It's like
and
10.8%, I think, or something like that.
yeah, so up to 11. And like the strikeout rate, they're sitting middle of the pack. I think they're 11th at 23%. I mean, the overall is good. Like Tim said, it's noticeable. And I mean, it's definitely noticeable because you're watching it in that regard. Like when it's with runners in scoring position, it just seems like they come at the worst time, because that's the one time where you can't have it. You got to have something better than what they've done. And I mean, I think though, to me, is like if you continue to generate walks and strike out less, that essentially it will get better with runners in scoring position. Because a lot of times, though, it is who it comes up. It's funny, Donovan Solano has a 0% walk rate. I was like, oh yeah, it doesn't. He hasn't necessarily been the player they thought they were getting.
He's been terrible. Why is he shouldn't be on the team? The guy's got an on base of, I think it's, what is it, .091.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point? He's 37. He's done. Why are they keeping him around? What's the point of it?
Yeah, the Mariners, let's see, are hitting 168 with runners in scoring position, tied with the Chicago White Sox.
Sweet.
And then they've got their strikeout rate with runners in scoring position isn't the worst. It's 8th worst at 23.5. Walk rate is good. They're 14% with runners in scoring position, but unfortunately what happens is the guys that actually can do damage when they hit the ball are the ones walking, and then the guys that don't really do damage are the ones that are coming to the plate. So I mean, I still think that overall, if you're still putting the better at bats, it eventually will even out a little bit. I think especially like people are talking a lot about Julio and everything else. Like I think if he continues to see pitches and walk, then it's still a good thing. You got to think he's going to make a little bit more contact though on some of the swings he's taking, because he's taking a lot of swings still. Despite walking, he's just not making a lot of quality contact on them.
Well, they better get it. They better get it here on a Thursday, because they got Crochet going tomorrow. Tim, what do you got?
I was just going to say, I think it just speaks as well to, as Ryan was pointing out there, like, they've got the guys that you want in those situations taking walks, but then it just speaks to the lack of depth overall in the lineup, that you're relying on, Donnie Barrels and Miles Mastroboni and those kind of guys. Rowdy Tellez, he's obviously hit some homers recently, but like you're relying on those guys in those situations, and it's just, once again, it's the lack of overall depth of hitting talent that you have 1 through 9 in the lineup.
Yeah, it's like Tellez. They had. If you watched the game where he hit the grand slam, when he didn't come through in the eighth, I mean, like Mariners social media was all about how he cut him. He's not a big league player and everything else. And he hits the salami in the 10th and extends. I mean, people were like freaked out. That's who he is, though. He's not gonna. I mean, like, and they're using him more than I think they intended to, like in a lot of different situations. I just think this is and like people say, oh well, organizational depth and everything like. Big league players don't sign to be depth pieces a lot of times unless they're the Rowdy Telezes of the world. The problem is that the position players, the daily position players that they went out, like they were already putting depth pieces at the daily position players, so they didn't have enough. Like all of a sudden, when you don't spend for a third baseman or a first baseman or whatever, and you're putting kind of replacement level players there. And then Victor Robles goes down, who's an everyday guy. It becomes more pronounced. Wow. It isn't about very few teams have great depth. The Dodgers do. The best depth is prospects that are major league ready playing at AAA. They don't have those. The one guy is Ben Williamson who was sort of big league ready defensively. So and Cole Young's not doing a lot. So this is kind of who they are. It's like Norman Dale and Hoosiers. This is your team. This is what they're doing. I mean, you can lament all you want about them not going after Alex Bregman or whatever, but it's sort of wasted emotion. This is what you're going to have to roll with for a while until the trade market opens up or until somebody in AAA Tacoma shows that they can be better. I mean, at some point, I do think we'll see Tyler Locklear up. If they have a bunch of lefties in a row, we may see him. I thought maybe we'd see him for this series, but, it's just kind of, it's not going to get significantly better unless they fix it themselves.
Hey, as we wrap up, Tim, do you need any furniture? Do you want something right now? He says he'll do a deal. He says if we buy something there, he'll bring it out.
So it's my wife actually wants to purchase furniture from Valley Furniture because she's in love with she loves the owner. Cookie's such a cool guy. I don't think she would want to buy anything from this Ryan. I don't think she would want to buy anything from Divish. But if Knutson's there and can cut a deal on a new maybe a new love seat or something like that, then we could have a conversation on that.
Ain't no sales tax out here either.
Yeah. Do you have the dual lazy boy that looks like the movie theater one?
Yes.
Does it have the cooler in the side of it? Okay, that's what I want. That's what I want to purchase.
Okay.
I'd like to
put it in your van and you can drive it.
Okay, Bert. Well, I'm not taking that van to Montana ever again. That's not happening. That was a one and done deal. All right, there it is. Tim, thank you. Special appearance with Tim Booth, Seattle Times. Read all of his work at seattletimes.com. He and others, Adam Jude, I know Bob Condota filling in for Ryan Divish for the next few months. Have fun there in Boston, Tim, and safe travels back home.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Good to see you, Ryan.
Divish, good to see you, buddy. Thanks for doing it. Go sell some furniture. Okay?
All right.
All right. We'll talk to you guys next week. Appreciate it.